Hi guys, and welcome to another iOS development tutorial. This is going to be a continuation of our MapKit series, and in this video we're going to essentially build on the application we built in a previous tutorial. Now if you haven't watched the other tutorials, don't worry, we're going to take a quick look at some of the code that generates the app that we've got on screen. Now the app we've built so far is essentially a simple MapView object. And what we do is we center that object on a particular set of coordinates. In this case, it happens to be Wimbledon in England. So what we're going to do in this particular tutorial though is we're going to take this particular application that we've got and add an annotation or a little pin that appears at a particular location. And when you click on it, it displays both a title and a subtitle. So let's take a quick look at some of the code. I'm going to go ahead and stop this application and let's take a look at what we've got so far. So pretty simple app. We've got a view controller nib file and you'll see that it just has a simple map view object on it. If I were to open up the assistant editor, you'll see that there is an outlet to this particular map view. And so that is something we set up in the last tutorial. And if I jump into my view controller's implementation file, you'll notice that I've got a couple different things here. One, I've defined some constants. And you'll notice that of course I've got the latitude and longitude values of Wimbledon, and you can either get this through something like Google Maps, or there's several other tools on the internet that allow you to see that. I've also defined a value called the span, and the span is essentially the value that our MapView will use in terms of determining how far in it should zoom. So think of the span as how far in do you want to zoom, and then of course the latitude and longitude. Then in our view.load method, we essentially create something called a region. A region is a MK coordinate region, is based on the MK coordinate region class, and then we create something called a CL location coordinate 2D. We set its latitude and longitude values, of course using these two values here. Then we create a span and we set its latitude and longitude delta values, which is set to the span here. Then what we do is we take our region and set its center to this CL location coordinate 2D, and we set the span to this MK coordinate span value. And then that's just about it. We set our map view, of course. We set the region and we animate it so that when the map does open up, it loads this particular area. So great. So now what we want to do from here, of course, like I said, is create an annotation. An annotation is essentially a little pin that you see on the map, and typically when the user taps on that pin, it will display a little graphic that allows them to then see sort of the text. You can set a title, a subtitle, and some other stuff. So let's create a simple little annotation here. So the way we do that, of course, we have to add a new file to our project. So I'm just going to right click my project and do new file. It's going to ask me what kind of template I want to use. I want to use an Objective-C class. I'm going to hit next, and then it's going to ask me what do I want this to be a subclass of, and I'm actually going to set this to be NS object, and we're going to come down here and I'm just going to call this annotation, and we'll hit next, and that'll create the header and implementation file for us. And of course we want this in the same exact folder, so we'll do that and finish, and here we go. We've got our annotation files. Great. So first thing we'll want to do is of course jump into the header file for our new annotation class and import our MapKit, and we want the second one here. We're going to set this to MapKit /mapkit.h. Great. With that done, what we want to do is we also want to explicitly declare that this class will conform to something called the MK annotation protocol. Command S, save, and we get that set in place. Now, once you say that a class is going to be conforming to this particular protocol, you have to implement 3 properties. So let's take a look at that. I'm just going to click into this particular statement here, and you'll see it in the quick help. I get the MK annotation protocol reference. If I were to click on that, it'll load that up, and you'll notice that there are a couple properties that have to be set. So we've got coordinate, title, and subtitle. So let's go ahead and create just those. So let me make some space here. So we'll do a add property, and we'll say it is non-atomic assign, and the coordinate is actually a CL location coordinate 2D, and we'll just call it coordinate. Now you may be tempted to rename these. Turns out you can't. So make sure you use the exact same name because you have to implement these. We're going to say non-atomic copy NS string title, and then property, again non-atomic and copy, and this one's going to be an NS string as well, and it's going to be called subtitle. Great. All right, with this done, we also want to jump into our implementation file and make sure to synthesize all of these. So we're going to do an add synthesize, and I'm going to say coordinate, title, and subtitle. Great. Command S to save it, and there we are. So no more errors or anything like that. Great. Now we need to jump back to our view controller's implementation file, because we're going to need to do some work here to actually set up our annotation. So of course, one of the first things is before we can actually set up the annotation, we have to import that file. So let's do a pound import, and we're just going to import annotation.h. Then in our view.load method, let's do a couple different things here. Let's make some space and put in our annotation related code. Okay. First, so our step one is going to be, we want to create a coordinate that we will use in conjunction with the annotation. So of course that's going to be a CL location coordinate 2D. We'll just call it, let's call it WIMB location, for example. And then we're going to say WIMB location's latitude is assigned the value of WIMB latitude, which is up here. Remember, this was our constant that we had declared earlier. Now we're going to say WIMB location dot longitude is equal to WIMB longitude. Let's assign that value there. So with that done, we can actually go forward and create our annotation object. So the way we would do that is we'd say annotation, and we'll say something like my annotation. We'll just do a simple annotation alloc. Then we can go ahead and remember those three properties that we defined. We can actually start setting those. So I can say my annotation dot coordinate is assigned the value of WIMB location, because that is also a CL location coordinate 2D. We can then say my annotation dot title is which is going to be an NS string. We'll just say Wimbledon. And we can also set a subtitle, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to say home of König Federer. Just in honor of Roger Federer's last win there. And then all we really have to do is add our annotation to the map view. So let's say self dot, what do we call our map here? Before I jump in, self dot, not docs, I don't know how that got there, but self dot my map view, and we're going to say add annotation, and it's of course looking for an MK annotation, so we'll just say my annotation, command S to save, all the errors should disappear, and here we go. We can now run our application, and you should see a nice little annotation on our screen when the map appears. So here we go, it's just about loaded up, and there we are. There's our annotation. Now I can click this, and you'll see that it then brings up that particular title and subtitle value that we defined. So there you go. It's as easy as that, and that's all it takes to add a annotation to your map view. Thanks for watching.